A ticket and there's no turning back now. Round and around like a horse on a carousel. We go.
This story was submitted to me by a follower who would like to remain anonymous. When I was 14, I had a best friend named Lucy, and we had one of those friendships where we were really close really quickly, which I now know is a red flag and usually a sign of a toxic friendship, but I was too young to know this then. Our favorite thing to do together was hang out at the mall. Our parents would let us go alone as long as we abided to one rule. We had to stay together at all times, and we were always pretty good about that. One night we were having a sleepover at Lucy's house and her Uncle Mike came over for dinner. Uncle Mike was pretty loud and goofy. He showed us like 8 magic tricks that night. I liked him, he was fun, but as I was helping clear dishes after dinner, I overheard Mike and Lucy's mom having a hushed conversation in the kitchen. She was like, "You've had too much to drink, why don't you just spend the night?" So Mike ended up sleeping over that night too. Right before going to sleep, Lucy's mom came into the bedroom, and she told us to remember to shut the bedroom door before falling asleep. When I asked Lucy why she said that, Lucy just shrugged and said, "I don't know." But we made sure the bedroom door was shut just like she asked. In the middle of the night, I woke up to the feeling of someone tickling my feet. So I was having a sleepover at Lucy's house and I woke up in the middle of the night to someone or something tickling my feet. I scream and then I hear shuffling. Lucy wakes up and she's like, "What's wrong?" And I tell her that something was tickling my feet, but she doesn't believe me. I'm like, "Well, why is the door open? We shut it before we went to sleep." And she goes, "Relax. Sometimes it happens because there's a draft in the house." And I tell her that I think it was her uncle who was tickling my feet and she goes, "Oh, come on, you're hallucinating." And honestly, at the time I had a bad feeling about Lucy's reaction. It felt like she was gaslighting me and I had no idea why. A few weekends later, Lucy and I are chilling at the mall on a Saturday afternoon. My parents let us go to the mall together alone, but their one rule is that we have to stay together the whole time. They call it the buddy system. So that day, Lucy's acting weird. She keeps looking around nervously and checking her phone. She says she has to go to the bathroom, and I'm like, "Okay, I'll go with you." Because we always go together, even if the other person didn't have to pee. And Lucy's like, "No, I'll go alone. I'll be quick." And I'm like, "No, I'll just go with you." And she snaps really aggressively, and she's like, "Just stay here." And then she spins around and sprints away from me. So Lucy's running away from me in the mall. I sprint after her. She's super fast. She rounds a corner and then I can't find her after that. I start crying. I have no idea why my best friend ran away from me. So I sit down on a bench in the mall. I'm still crying, really overwhelmed. Then I hear someone say my name. So I look up and it's Lucy's uncle, Uncle Mike. He asks what's wrong and I tell him. He's being super nice and comforting. And then he starts rubbing my back, which made me uncomfortable, but I don't say anything. Then he offers to give me a ride home. And I say, "No, I can just call my parents." And he goes, "Just let me give you a ride, come on." But the way he said it the second time gave me goosebumps. It was aggressive. Like he wasn't asking me, he was telling me. So I stand up and step away from him and say, "You're making me uncomfortable, I'm calling my parents." Mike glares at me, and then he says, "No one likes a tease." And he walks away. I told my parents what happened and they immediately called Lucy's parents. Apparently, Uncle Mike had taken a liking to me. And he found out that I was going to be at the mall that day with Lucy. And Mike paid her $100 to run away and leave me alone with him. He told Lucy that I liked him too and that she was being a good friend by giving us alone time. I never spoke to Lucy again after that.
A 6th grade teacher asked her class the other day how many of them were Trump fans. And most of them, not knowing what a Trump fan was and of course wanting to be liked by their teacher, they all raised their hands. Well, all except for little Johnny. The teacher looks over at little Johnny and says, "Johnny, why are you being different again?" And he says, "Well, 'cause I'm not a Trump fan." And she says, "Well, why are you not a Trump fan?" And he says, "'Cause I'm a Democrat." She says, "Really, why are you a Democrat?" He says, "Well, my mom's a Democrat and my dad's a Democrat, so I'm a Democrat." She says, "Oh, really? Well, what if your mom was a moron and your dad was an idiot? What would that make you?" Johnny smiles and says, "A Trump fan."
Our parents took us to this really fancy restaurant for my birthday and I was so excited. Anyways, as we were looking through the menu to order something, my mom gasps like she's seeing a fucking ghost. "What? Mommy dear, are you alright?" She whispered, "Look at the price, OMG. I see my mom whisper something to my brother and sister and gives my brother a ring. Man, I was confused as a fucking rock, but I didn't think anything of it. So she sees the waiter and says go. I'm literally sitting with a fucking frown on my face and then my fucking brother gets on his knees and fucking proposed to my sister while everyone was staring at us like we're fucking aliens from Area 51. And to make matters worse, she said yeah. I'm literally staring at them, fucking processing all this shit. The manager came and congratulated us and told us we didn't have to pay for anything, which meant we got free food. My family started cheering like, "Bitch, shut up." He calls me to his office and said we can only get free food if I have an affair with him. I didn't want to disappoint my family, but I didn't mind because he was hot. So we started making out and things escalated to us having the dirty and he was so fucking good at it. So after that I went to my family and had a normal dinner. We were finished getting ready to leave and then the manager hands me a piece of paper with his number on it. So I was about to go off on my family for literally approving my brother and sister's engagement, but my mom said it was just for free food. Bitch, what? I was fucking speechless, but you know what they say. Work harder, not smarter. I had a few affairs with the man.
In 9th grade, I was getting on the bus to go home from school when I got a text from my boyfriend saying, "I'm so sorry, everything's gonna be okay." I then got a text from my sister saying, "Don't blame mom, she already blames herself." Super confused, I called my sister. Voicemail. I then tried my mom. Voicemail. I then tried my dad. Voicemail. I was freaking out because I thought one of my grandparents had died and no one was texting me back. I got to the bus stop and my dad was waiting in his car, which is always a bad sign. Going on? I asked. He says Luke is no longer with us. Luke is my childhood dog since I was in 5th grade. I start ugly crying and he proceeds to drive me to my boyfriend's house 10 minutes away in dead silence. I get out, I run upstairs to his room, and I start crying. Luke is dead! Confused, he said, he didn't die, your dad gave him away. So I called my dad screaming and I said, get my dog back right now or I swear to God I will never love you again.
So in high school, I have these two friends named Dan and Joe. That's what we're going to call them for now. We were going into English class and they sat together and I sat in the corner of the classroom by myself. The English teacher was speaking and I could see at the corner of my eye that they are roughhousing with each other like the dudes that they are. At first I looked at them and I was like, they're just dudes. Like they do this all the time. But then midway as the fucking English teacher was speaking, all I hear is when I tell you everyone's head like turned to them, all I see is Joe like his head was down, he was laughing and all Joe says is Miz, I swear it wasn't me, it was him. I don't know why he did that noise. And all Dan said was nothing. Absolutely fucking nothing. This fool moans in the middle of class and just looks at everybody and just goes back to doing his work. Like,
when I was in middle school, me and the boys really liked snow. No, seriously, we loved snow. There was sledding, there was snowball fights, there was making foot-long wieners, sticking them in the street for cars to run over. And that's exactly what we did for 2 hours. We made an old couple smile so hard. These people were in their 70s. They're smiling at a 1.5 foot tall snow dick. They swerve around it like it's friendly. And then we got the genius idea. Let's start throwing snowballs at cars. I'm gonna take you back about 30 seconds. We're in middle school. That should explain everything that you need to know. So we're hiding in pine trees. We have a pile of 100 snowballs. Every car that drives by, we chuck a couple. Thinking back on it, we could have like destroyed a windshield or something. It was not a smart idea. Until this one man. See, this one man drives by. Me and my man chuck 2 snowballs. They both hit the windshield. Perfect timing. It was an ambush. The car drives about 50 more feet, stops so abruptly, I thought the driver was gonna fly out of his own windshield. Just absolutely ragdoll himself. He starts reversing faster than your dad backing out the driveway saying he's going to get milk. In this story, that's a measurement of speed. Ah, the scenery is spectacular here. All we know is that this man ain't happy. We start running. We make a run for the back gate. We unlock it, pull as hard as we can, jammed in by snow. We thought we had 10 seconds to live at that point. Closest thing we can see is a pine tree. We both duck and dip into the pine tree. We think we are safe. Now this strange man pulls into the driveway, right? Still reverse, like 30 miles an hour. I was impressed. He gets out of the car, walks up to the door, knocks. Nobody's home. We're safe. I just spawned in a fortress. Yes! I see him get back into his car. I think that we're safe. And then I look down. I'd just like to make you guys blissfully aware that I was not wearing a camouflage coat. This coat was the closest thing to bright orange you could possibly get. He gets back out of his car. He walks over, looks us dead in the eye and says, "Nice throw."